What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pitt Podcast, your daily podcast covering the Pittsburgh Panthers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Nick Farabaugh, writer for Pittsburgh Source Now, call games at WPTS Radio, and I'm a production assistant at ACC Network. And folks, today we have a loaded episode. Cam Bright, he's officially off to Washington. What that means for Pitt's linebacker situation and what happened with Cam Bright. We'll talk about the fallout of it and all. We'll also look to the NFL a little bit. Some Pitt storylines happening there. Could Teryl Austin get the Steelers defensive coordinator job? And Aaron Donald continues to wreck things in Los Angeles. So we'll talk about it all here coming up on this episode of Locked On Pitt.
You are Locked On Pitt, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Panthers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back here to the Locked On Pitt Podcast. And as always, as I do every episode, thank you for making the Locked On Pitt Podcast your first listen every day. I always appreciate that. Subscribe on YouTube, give me feedback, leave a review on Apple, do all that good stuff, folks. I love it. I appreciate it. Always want to make this show the best possible show it can be. And folks, we have a lot to talk about today between stuff that's going on with the current Pitt program and stuff that's going on in the NFL with Pitt alums. But first, let me let you know today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Experience the game like never before with the Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundbar for TV, movies, music, gaming, and more. Visit Sonos.com to learn more. Now, folks, as I said, busy. It's a busy day here. But I think today, Cam Bright's transfer, obviously the biggest news for the Pitt program right now. Not that we knew he was departing, but it's official now. He's not pulling his name back from the portal. I think there was maybe some optimism or hope that, hey, maybe Cam Bright will come back here. And even after the transfer of Michael Dow and then obviously the non-transfer of Michael Dow and then Shane Simon, everyone kind of thought, okay, maybe something will happen here. Maybe there will be something that peeks through and this guy will be back, because obviously Cam Bright would have been the starting star linebacker. And that's a significant loss for Pitt. So Cam Bright transferring to Washington, that means bad things for Pitt, because that's a good program. And as expected, Cam Bright gets a really good location to land. I mean, just from a location standpoint, Seattle's pretty rad, just straight up. But also, when you just look at that program, that's a program that has produced so much defensive talent. Now, I know Kalen DeBoer, the new coach there, he's not Jimmy Lake or he's not Chris Peterson, and he's not a guy that has produced all this talent. But it's a traditional program that produces a lot of NFL talent at all positions, up and down the line. They have guys like Vita Vea, Byron Murphy. This year they're going to have Trent McDuffie coming out. There's a lot of good players that have played at Washington over the years. So this is a good landing spot for Cam Bright. I think that when you just look at it from his perspective, couldn't have landed in a much better spot. And I think we all knew he was going to transfer to a pretty good spot. I mean, honestly, there were talks of him maybe going to the SEC at like Auburn or a place like that, right? But instead he goes to the Pac-12, goes to Washington. It's a good landing spot for him. He'll get a lot of playing time there. He'll rack up the stats. Hopefully he'll do enough to get an NFL look. I think he's got the athleticism and the instincts to do it. He's a fiery player. He's a captain, obviously, at Pitt. But it's a loss for the Pitt program. And now that we officially know he will not be coming back, and honestly, Pitt's so heavily tight on scholarships right now, we don't know if they're going to, they're going to get down to 85 some way. And I think that's clear. But I don't think we know how they're going to get down there. And we don't know if it's going to be exactly 85. Right now, I think they're at 88. So, they don't need to be down to 85 until kickoff, literally. Until week 1 against West Virginia kicks off, they don't have to be down until 85. So they can do this for a while. And they can go into the spring with more than 85. So there's no rush in currently, dwindling that down. That will dwindle down between, I think, the quarterback competition. I think there's maybe a defensive end or two that'll transfer out, because it just makes sense that a defensive end or two would transfer out. Honestly, like, you look at essentially what that room is. It's like 15 guys vying for playing time, and they're all coached by this stud coach and Charlie Partridge, and it's tough. But the linebacker room is also a tough event because this is a room that it doesn't really look all that great, right? It's got talent. Servassier Dennis, you like that guy, you like the talent he's shown, but where do you play him? Shane Simon, a really unsure thing, has started for Notre Dame at times, but he's an athletic player that has to realize that potential, right? That athleticism has to turn into something more palpable than just, hey, look, this is the athletic traits. He's gonna be a senior now, and so there's a lot to work with Simon. And again, I expressed upside and optimism when they got Shane Simon. I think for good reason. I think there's plenty to like about Shane Simon, but I also think there's plenty to be kind of cautioned against. Like, this is a guy that has not produced at a high level at the NCAA level, and maybe it clicks for him here. And I think, playing the mic or the money with his athleticism, with his length, with his propensity to get off blocks, with his ability to shoot gaps, with his aggressive style and his flashy moments that he's put on tape that you can see, I think there's plenty of potential there for this guy to turn into a gem, a Kylan Johnson like type gem. And so when you look at Pitt, that's what you got to hope for. Can Shane Simon click? I'm very excited about Bengali Kamara. Very excited about Bengali Kamara. I think there's plenty to be excited about with Bengali Kamara. I mean, just look at the guy. Look at how he played in that Peach Bowl. He looked like a born natural out there. I mean, this was a guy that played at such a high level. This was a guy that made a few really nice sticks in the backfield, made a few really nice coverage plays. I think there was one play where he carried the running back right up on a wheel route, and it was an incompletion. I thought that was really encouraging, and I think it's really encouraging, especially in that coverage rep, because this might be a guy that has to move to the star position. And that star position is kind of the question mark, right? What does Pitt do? Like, where do they move these guys? Because you could easily say Kamara at the star, Dennis at the mic, Simon at the money. You could flip Simon and Dennis. Heck, maybe you even are a little bit outlandish and you want to get unique and say, man, we could put Servassier Dennis at the star. But let's be real here for a second, and let's kind of keep it a buck. This linebacker situation, it's scary. This is the easily the biggest deficiency just on paper heading into next year. Because you have two starters that really aren't proven, and I like Bengali Kamara, and I think Shane Simon has upside, but these are not guys that are proven. They have pedigree, but they are not proven. And you've seen flashes, but again, you don't know exactly what they are. That can be scary. It can be even more scary when two of those backups are also going to be new guys that you really don't know what they are. You know what Brandon George is. And I think you know what Brandon George is, and whether you like him or not, he's a guy that he's a good run stopper, and he's a smart player. He's a good leader. He brings things to the table that, from an intangible aspect, you like. Maybe he's not the most athletic, and I think he's a little bit tight-hipped in coverage, and I think that can get him in trouble. But I think as a backup Mike, this is not a guy that you're going to cry wolf over. He's a solid player. He does what he's asked to do. He's gap sound. He's very vocal on the field, so he gets guys in the right position. It's always a good thing to have. Having a guy like that on your team, especially in this scheme where you want to stop the run so much, good thing to have for Pitt. But Solomon DeShields, athletic freak, absolutely yoked. I mean, the guy looks huge. He was working worse as an emergency guy as the injuries racked up this year. That's the type of athlete he is. He was a stud receiver in high school. So this is an athletic guy. The athletic traits with Solomon DeShields are off the charts. The question is the rest of his game? And where does he play? Is he the backup money or the backup star? And if he's the backup money, who is the backup star? Is it Aiden Henningham? Is it Marquand Pope? Is it Kyle Lewis? Is it Preston Levant? Who is it? Because you're going to need a backup at each of those spots. And you don't know anything about Henning, really. A wide receiver convert, great length, good athlete. But again, don't know much about him. Kyle Lewis, the human missile, high school tape looks great. But is he going to be ready as a freshman? Marquand Pope, another hard hitter, converted safety. Looks good. But again, is he going to be ready year one? We'll see. This could be a strength where they come out and they prove everybody wrong. But understand there's plenty to be worried about. And Cam Bright now solidifying that transfer, not withdrawing his name from the portal, not coming back for certain. That's a blow for Pitt. And that's something that when you look at it overall, Pitt's going to have to work and move. And Ryan Manilek's coaching aptitude is going to be tested this coming offseason, this camp, this season. Pitt's linebackers have to be at the snuff because this is a big year for Pitt. If they can build on that 2021 season and build a solid 2022, get another national ranking to end the year, big things can happen for this program. We're already seeing them being contention for 4 stars you couldn't even dream of. Jevin Williams, for example, put him in the top 7, talking great about Pitt. We'll see. It feels like they have a lot of just momentum moving on the recruiting trail. 2 straight years will do that even tenfold. And so this is big, and the linebackers can't be the reason you don't get that jump. Especially probably in an ACC that's going to be better, an ACC that's going to be talented with Tyler Van Dyke, with Brennan Armstrong, with all these guys still there. It's not going to be an easy path. When you play Tennessee and West Virginia, your first 2 games, it's not going to be easy. You got to play Hendon Hooker. Won't be easy, but Pitt can do it. But the linebackers have to be up to snuff, and they have to be up to snuff very quickly. As again, that's a tough draw. The first 2 games are tough. When you go from West Virginia at home and then Tennessee at home, I get it. It's the home environment. Then going to Western Michigan, maybe not as hard without Caleb Ellaby, Sky Moore there, but still, it's not an easy schedule. And so Pitt's going to have to be up to snuff, and these linebackers are going to have to be up to snuff because it's big time for Pitt. It's kind of put up or shut up time for this team, and when you look at it overall, they got to build on that year. They have to. It can make Pitt a legitimate coastal. I get when you look at the coastal, you'll say Pitt. That's the team. And that's what Pitt needs to be known as, even with Mario Cristobal coming into Miami and all of that. Now, folks, let's shift over to the NFL. Let's talk a little bit about Aaron Donald. However, first, let me let you know about BetOnline. As BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the sports wagering action this season. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, folks, welcome back here to the Locked On Pitt podcast. We are talking a little bit about Aaron Donald here, some NFL alums checking up on the NFL alums of the Pittsburgh Panthers. Pitt had a lot of guys play this weekend. Jordan Whitehead for the Bucs, they got eliminated. He's really made himself quite good. Tyler Boyd out there with the Bengals, and the Bengals are in the AFC Championship. Feel good for Tyler Boyd in that area. Guy's been such a solid slot receiver for them. And now the Bills, Dane Jackson, DeMar Hamlin, Dane Jackson starting in a playoff game against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Wow, getting thrown into the fire. Talk about that. But Pitt continuing to make their mark in the NFL playoffs, and no one has made their mark more on the NFL playoffs than Aaron Donald, of course. This guy is a freak. Let's keep it real here. Listen, I cover the Steelers as well as Pitt, and I mentioned that a lot here, and I want to let you know, because I've seen TJ Watt. I covered every Steeler game this year, and I watched TJ Watt play, and wow, what a talent the guy is. I think he's probably the best edge rusher in football. He's not the best player in football. This dude, Aaron Donald, is unbelievable player. I just marvel at the story of Aaron Donald, right? Because what a player this guy is. I mean, he's undersized for the position, but no one can block him. Even double teams don't work on Aaron Donald. He's a special football player. This is a dude that changes games. He changes the way you play against the Rams. I mean, he's that type of dude. And you could see the intensity that this guy plays with. I remember just him breaking through 2 blockers and Leonard Fournette. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, good Lord. Aaron Donald is that dude, right? And he's so good. And you got to love what he brings to the table. From an explosiveness standpoint, from a fire standpoint, from a motor standpoint, this is a guy that works tirelessly to keep up with his craft. Just a true technician. For his size, I mean, it's not even like he has great length, but for his size to have such special skills as an athlete, the explosiveness, the lateral agility, the flexibility. The most underrated part of his game is his flexibility. Like, people don't understand how hard it is to break double teams by getting skinny, and in the certain angles you have to get, and the flexibility you have to have in your ankles and your hips to do that. It's nothing for Aaron Donald. But why would it be? He's Aaron Donald. And you just love seeing this guy keep balling out. If you have a rooting interest in the NFL right now as a Pitt fan, I mean, this has to be the guy, right? I mean, I won't. If I want to see Tyler Boyd versus Aaron Donald, like, that's what I want to see. Like, I want to see Tyler Boyd versus Aaron Donald. One of those guys walking away with the ring is a good thing to me. Aaron Donald deserves a ring. Community man, guy that gives back, one of the absolute amazing players we've ever seen. One of the best players ever, if not the best. I mean, there's contention there. Trust me, there's contention between Dan Marino, Larry Fitzgerald, Tony Dorsett, Mike Ditka, and so many more players that have come out of Pitt and have put on amazing NFL careers. There's a lot of competition for Aaron Donald, but he has to be up there. This guy's a future Hall of Famer. And he just makes up unbelievable plays. Again, splitting that double team and tackling Fournette was unreal. Aaron Donald is a game wrecker. The guy that everyone fears. The dude that is the best player in the NFL right now. He's the best player in the NFL. There's contention there, and maybe it's not as clear because it was in other years. You know, Mahomes is obviously phenomenal. TJ Watt is tying the sack record. There's a ton of great talent out there in the NFL right now. But this dude is different. No one can seemingly block Aaron Donald. It's rare you ever see him get shut down. If he does, it's triple teamed and everyone else is eating. The attention Aaron Donald commands forced the Buccaneers to put Donovan Smith and Von Miller one-on-one on an island. And look what Von Miller did. He creates for others. He has gravity. I love that term, the magnetism that he creates. When you are on the offensive line and you're lining up against the Rams, you always point to that guy right there. Where's number 99? Where's Aaron Donald? Because this dude is unbelievable. And it's great that, you know, every time he comes back for the offseason, he works out at Pitt's facilities. I love that fact about Aaron Donald. And he donates to the program and he helps build the program in such great ways. And Aaron Donald, no one is happier to see Pitt with this success. The tweets he sent out, the public support he always gives. Just the actual campaigning. I mean, he campaigned for Paris Ford to get his UDFA contract with the Rams. Even after, you know, Ford, the whole debacle last year that happened with his testing and everything, that was what got him in there. He's a guy that fights for just everything, and he gives back to his community, and he's such a great player and a good person. This is a guy that's unbelievable. Aaron Donald, you just love to see him and what he does, and hopefully, you know, that game was stressful, but Aaron Donald, man, always making his impact felt. No surprise to anyone here that saw him at Pitt. He was unbelievable here at Pitt, under-recruited out of Penn Hills. Guy has been that dude for years. He's still that dude. Doesn't look like he's falling off anytime soon. Just the unbelievable plays he makes, the magnetism he creates. Von Miller taking over that game for a large portion of that game. There's so much good things to say about Aaron Donald, and certainly this Sunday won't be the end. I'm rooting for this guy to get a ring. He deserves it as much as anyone, especially among former Pitt alumni. Folks, we're going to talk about Teryl Austin. Could he get that Steelers defensive coordinator job? But first, let me let you know about GetUpside. Hey, Pitt fans, this is Nick Farab with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. GetUpside, my listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free GetUpside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use the promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using GetUpside. Just download the app free and use the promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. So the cash back is added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app, use the promo code SCORE to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE. All right, folks, welcome back to the Locked On Pitt podcast. Still chugging along here on this Tuesday edition, and we're talking a little bit about NFL guys. Just got done talking Aaron Donald. Now Teryl Austin. And Teryl Austin, a guy that played here at Pitt, as a player, an extremely solid player. An extremely, a Letterman, a 3-year starter. This is a guy that I think Pitt fans look back on in that 80s run, and you have to at least look back and say, you admire what he did. And Teryl Austin now has been coaching in the NFL for forever. I mean, his first job in the NFL came in 2003. He's been coaching for 31 years at this point when you go back to his time at Penn State. He's a guy that has consistently earned his worth, right? Look what he did with the Ravens in their defensive backfield during that 2011-2013 run he had. The Lions under Jim Caldwell and his defensive tutelage, with Teryl Austin being the defensive coordinator. Boy, did they put up some good seasons. 11-5, 9-7, 9-7, 7-9 in his 4 years as defensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're the Lions. That's like unprecedented success for the Detroit Lions. And so now he's under consideration to get the Steelers defensive coordinator job. And he's been in Pittsburgh since 2019. So this is not super unexpected. He got fired by the Bengals after about 11 weeks of coaching them. And that left a sour taste in his mouth for good reason. I mean, listen, that was a Hail Mary attempt by Marvin Lewis to save his job, and it didn't work. And so he was the sacrificial lamb, if you will. Someone had to be sacrificed as they were not playing well, and it ended up being Teryl Austin, and of course they never turned it around, and Marvin Lewis also got the axe that year. But now he's getting that opportunity again. And here's the thing. We know how the Steelers do kind of the internal candidate cycle, right? Hiring Keith Butler after Dick LeBeau leaves. Matt Canada gets promoted, another former Pitt guy. I mean, there's a legit, hey, look, there's Pitt guys in that room. Matt Canada isn't a true Pitt guy, kind of like, he didn't go here. But plenty of knowing within the building. And it's pretty cool just to see that pipeline is a thing, right? Like the fact that there's a pipeline at all is incredibly cool to me. And Teryl Austin's a guy that has this. I don't think he's an innovative coordinator. I don't think he's a guy that does a crazy amount. He's a 4-3 under coach. He's a guy that has different philosophies from Tomlin. And really, and it really comes down to this for Teryl Austin. When you look at his career, it's really been made cutting his teeth as a defensive backs coach and making those guys better. He's been running the same scheme since 2010 when he was at Florida. So this is a guy that really hasn't changed much as a coach in terms of his defensive philosophy. If his secondary is good, Teryl Austin's going to be good. His pass rush, he doesn't dial up as many exotic blitzes. He doesn't try to confuse you up front. He's a guy that tries to do more on the back end, and that's obviously his defensive background showing through. But look at what he's done as a defensive backs coach. Darius Slay coming up under him, right? That's a huge one. Glover Quinn, Quandre Diggs, like these guys under his tutelage grew and became very viable defensive backs in the NFL. And they're good players. And so you look at kind of everything he did in Detroit, solid stuff. Then comes to Pittsburgh, you can see what also he's doing here. Terrell Edmonds' growth really just takes off under him. Edmonds is now a really solid safety who's going to get a little payday. in free agency, maybe coming back to the Steelers, but his development from just absolutely raw safety that was almost unplayable to what he is now, it's unbelievable. Ahkello Witherspoon rebounds. Joe Hayden's career resurgence under him. Steven Nelson has 2 career years under him. Minkah Fitzpatrick finds his natural position and plays like an all-pro under him. Mike Hilton gets really the wheels start to turn under him. There's so much that I could point to. Cam Sutton. So much I can point to with Teryl Austin, but his tutelage, his pedigree as a defensive back coach, as a secondary coach, should not be questioned. He's got it all. Defensive coordinator doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean much with the Steelers, I think. It's Mike Tomlin's team. I think it would be cool to see Teryl Austin get another opportunity. I think he deserves another opportunity. I think he had 4 pretty decent years in Detroit. He's been a guy that has preached turnovers. And since he has come on, the Steelers have forced 85 turnovers. It's a lot of turnovers in the past 3 years. They are an aggressive defense. They are ball magnets. They always punch for the football to get it out. They get turnovers. And it really, that philosophy is what won them a lot of their tough games this year when they weren't a good roster. You can credit Teryl Austin for that. That's what he was brought in to do. He was brought in to help them at improving the turnover department. And Teryl Austin has plenty to work with. And I think he's just the likely go-to candidate. Like, who else would it be? If you're looking at an internal candidate, maybe Carl Dunbar, but Austin has the defensive coordinator pedigree. Dunbar does not. So Teryl Austin is a guy that when you look at him, good things happen under him in terms of the turnover department. He's kind of a turnover merchant. He's a guy that preaches ball aggressiveness. And I really do appreciate that about Teryl Austin because turnovers are king in the NFL nowadays. And so him getting the defensive coordinator job, not going to change a lot schematically. I don't think it's going to change a ton. And you can see even when he's done that, this is a guy that has put together good things. But let's also understand that Teryl Austin is a guy that probably won't have much control here, but I think he's going to get the job, and that'll be really cool. 2 guys with Pitt connections. A former Pitt player and Teryl Austin potentially being defensive coordinator, former Pitt offensive coordinator, Matt Canada being offensive coordinator. Plenty of Pitt connections to go around on the Pittsburgh Steelers' staff. Jerry Olszewski, also the inside linebackers coach, of course. Plenty of Pitt trails here on that team. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening to the Locked on Pitt podcast. Tomorrow we will obviously talk about the outfall from Pitt versus Syracuse. We'll see what happens there. Does Pitt win? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the takeaways from that overall tomorrow. And folks, as always, as we end it, hail to Pitt.